Well, hello everybody and welcome. It's Public Eye. My name is Fumi. And today we are going to be talking about Nigerian tertiary institutions, from universities to polytechnics and so on. The question usually is, why are universities the way they are? When that question is asked, people are talking about either the curriculum or the strikes and so on and so forth. Very little focus is put upon the living conditions of students in universities, their hostels, their security, feeding, and other such. Now, it always seems to have been so, but when is it going to change? I have a studio full of young people, most of whom are in the universities, and so they can tell us what it's like, whether things have changed or if they remained the same. And what will it take for it to change? Because it's called the ivory tower for a reason. Shouldn't it be the place where you go to see how bright a future can be from how bright your environment is? We'll find out when we come back from the break.
From polytechnics to colleges of education to universities, poor infrastructure in Nigeria's public higher institutions has remained a source of concern over the years.
The state of living condition in UNILAG, University of Lagos, it's very bad actually, like the hostels.
The lack of funding and care has led to students having to live in inhumane conditions with dilapidating and unhygienic facilities.
How will you have hostels and there's no nets for the windows?
The rooms are not tidy, it's not conducive. Even in my room, you have to pay for the fan.
Sometimes there's no water in the hostel, and there are a lot of facilities that are not put in place, they're not there. So we're managing.
Because you check all the drainages and all the toilets and everything, it's not in a good condition.
But generally the hostel is in a sorry state. I stay in Jaja here. I stay at Penthouse. Penthouse is the 4th floor. Every morning, like today I had an ATM class this morning. I had to go all the way from 4th floor downstairs to go and join the queue for about 10 minutes before I could fetch a bucket of water to go back upstairs to bathe.
So I think if the living condition, if the hostels are passed on to private investors, I think it can be better.
Students' living environments are an integral part of their welfare system. They need comfortable accommodation in order to effectively learn. However, as the number of universities in Nigeria increase, the standards seem to decrease.
It's Public Eye, of course, and our conversation today is about tertiary institutions, but not the usual topics, not the strikes, not all of that. It's the living conditions of students and non-students in the tertiary institutions in Nigeria, from universities to polytechnics and so on. My first guest, Professor Jelil Ojuade. Good to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to have to get the audience involved from get-go in this particular conversation, because I don't want there to be hearsay. There's a lot of talk about, well, some universities are fine, some universities are not fine. But our own findings is that the way students live in most of the universities is abysmal. From issues of no water, forget electricity, overcrowding, and security issues in campuses across the country. First, I want you to wear your hats, one as an alumni president, before you wear the hat as a vice chancellor. Why is this still so? That happened when I was in university. I got into university in 1990. That's 19 Bogboro now, as they say. Why is that still happening?
Well, thank you very much. I think there are a lot of factors responsible for that. And I'm not going to throw blames here, but I am going to talk generally, and it's all involving the stakeholders, the government, the proprietors, the management, the parents, even the students are responsible for the decay. That's the way I'll put it. Take, for instance, the 90s that you are talking about, and the years before the 90s, we saw a university or universities that we can vouch for. At a point, those people staying in the hostels, they were being fed freely, although they pay token. They get laundry services, they go into their hostels, having a very clean and serene environment. But suddenly, through the activities of probably the student or the management, it threw the whole thing open, and we'll discover that even the hostel, as small as the cubicles are, they are unable to manage it.
I must interrupt you because I always hear these stories, and it seems like fairy tales sometimes. I was a squatter too in that room. We were 12 in that room. The bathrooms and toilets were unusable.
Exactly.
That was when I learned that, we used to call them dawn baths. You have to wake up at 4 because we were a girls' hostel, and there were peeping toms wanting to see the girls bath outside. So we wake up at 4 to bath in the cold in the morning. That's if you have water.
That's what I'm saying. It's still gearing towards the decay of social values. We all know that in our homes, naturally when you wake up, we are trained to take care of our immediate environment. You wake up, you clean your environment, you make sure your corner is very clean. But students nowadays, they are not ready to do that. Okay, forget about the students. What about the managers, the cleaners? They take salaries every month. A lot of them come into their offices, they just sit down there and expecting the students to do that. They will even tell you who is going to clean your office for you or your rooms for you. You are being paid. Aside being allowed to clean it, we expect the students to do some, management on their own. Now, there's a clash between the two of them. So who does it? Are we going to tell the management, the school management or the school authority to come and be cleaning their rooms for them? It's not possible. So it's like people are not ready to observe some, care of their health.
I'm going to ask the students amongst us, but I want to be zeroing on specifics because overcrowding is not a student issue, is it?
Yeah, it is not.
The cleaning of the campuses, I'm not even talking about the rooms themselves, because once a room is overcrowded, it becomes actually more difficult to keep it tidy. But let us talk about the surroundings of the schools, the university environment, from the faculties to the rooms and all of that. And then things like water, drinking water, good quality drinking water in university. Because I was at Unilag recently, and there's a portion before the lagoon. I couldn't believe how bad it was. And there's actually they use a part of it as kind of like a dumpster. And behind it or beside it is like a department that I thought actually this should be part of your project to clean up this swamp. Because it's actually a really beautiful place normally, but it's been just in a bad state. So I'm going to ask the student, because I don't know how bad it is. I'm not in the university. I don't go there. I don't know. So maybe this is hearsay. I don't know if it's better in some universities than others. Some say it's better in private universities, or maybe it's better in federal universities. Maybe it's better in state universities. I don't know. But, those who should are here so that we know what is and what isn't. How many of you are students at universities? Yes. How many of you have something to say about this? Because I know some people don't want to talk because they don't want to get in trouble in their school.
Let them feel free. They should express themselves. They are the leaders of tomorrow.
Exactly.
They should be able to.
So, what is it like? Can I get a microphone and see who might want to talk? you know.
My name is Bola Bamire. I was going to say something. Professor was saying the student, like I think it was actually putting most blame on the student. But I was going to say that I think the people at the upper part, that they're not really doing their job. Then there's no background checkup. They just, once they do these things, they just leave it to the cleaners and the student. So the blame is actually more on the student, which I feel it's unfair. I think if you are assigned jobs, I feel the people at top should, do their background checks, always try and make sure everything is perfect. So that's just.
Are you in the university?
I was in university.
You
Ebonyi
were?
State.
Which university?
Ebonyi State.
Ebonyi State. What was it like in your school?
It was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. That's just it.
That's all you can say. It was rough.
It was rough.
It was rough.
Yeah.
Was it rough, or is it rough in your schools? Just give me general answers. It is. It was. It is. So as it was in the past, so it is. It seems like socially, it is in the present. It's worse in the present. Okay, I just wanted to establish that.
Yeah.
That it's bad.
Very
and
bad.
I can say a lot of them are holding back because no one wants to get into trouble. That it's quite bad. We have gone to some schools and I've seen, and there are actually videos posted on social media so we can see how rough it is for the students. He made a point that this is bulk, you're passing the blame, that universities tend to pass the blame. I always see ASU, and also non-academic staff on strike. And I see them on strike usually about salaries. I've never seen them on strike about the living conditions in the university. Why is this so?
I think the major problem, we have been talking about it over the years, issues ranging from corruption, management, bad leadership, students is involved, The years we are talking about, it was still better. And it will take us to drift a little bit into the political situation of the country.
But the private universities seems to have the same problem, some of whom are paying quite a bit of money also. So it behoves the question that in a situation where, students are paying a lot more than maybe federal universities or state universities,
still going through,
why do you still have some of these issues?
It has to be the problem of management. That's why I said management too. The person or those at the helms of affairs, maybe they don't have knowledge of how to go about it. Yeah. Take, for instance, the number of students in a campus. Assuming we have 10,000 students in a campus, and they pay probably 350,000 naira per person. If you multiply that, it has a certain amount of money. And managing that, you should have analyzed the way and manner you go about it. Okay, yeah. X goes into this, salaries, uptake, environment, management, maybe diesel, all sort of, but probably the way they see it, they might be diverting, such monies to something else. Right. It's a private university. The owner takes, decision, knows what he or she is doing. But in a federal university, they are not even getting the support.
Right. So, I'm listening to you and I'm smiling because I can see an academic already, not necessarily a manager of, facilities and things. Because even when you speak about the universities that are private and are charging higher fees, the states and federal universities are also getting subventions, from
the federal
either
government.
The state or the federal government. Exactly. So they are not completely reliant on the fees that the students are paying. And if you put them side by side, oftentimes when it comes in, if it does come in, of course.
That's an assumption.
Yes.
Some states, they do not get any subvention from their state governments. I can tell you that.
So that's what concerns a lot of people, that universities, by their definition, is a place of knowledge and innovation.
Exactly.
So ordinarily, these universities themselves, once on one hand, in terms of the funding, you have the funding that either comes from student fees,
yes,
and
or internally generated revenue.
Exactly. So aside from the monies that come from whichever body oversees the university, and whatever students are paying, they are supposed to become innovative about getting other sources of income, internally generated, other externally generated too.
Yes.
Because when they talk, they say internally. What about even other externally generated? There are universities that can attract a lot more funding.
Of grants.
And
Yes,
grants,
I know.
even beyond grants and support and collaboration, if they get their acts together. But it seems that universities in Nigeria have become really political. So even the choice, that's why I raised the issue earlier, that when I see the advocacy or the strikes or the fights for funds for universities in Nigeria, it's usually about salaries, either salaries of academic staff or salaries of non-academic staff. Maybe they don't say it.
It's not only salaries. Okay, take for instance, I'm not political, but the last face-off that ASU had with, or they are still having anyway, with the federal government, it entails a lot of things. But people outside see it as if we're agitating for salaries. It's not. Even the living conditions of the students are inclusive, honestly.
And the lecturers too, because they also live
yes.
in the
Yes,
campuses.
in fact, some of the students live better than the lecturers.
They do?
Yeah, they are here. They do. Yeah, somebody said, yeah, that they do. But you see, I mean, the truth is, if a university lecturer relies so much on the salaries every month, and the person will need to grow to become a professor, to rise from probably the lower cadre, the salary cannot do it alone.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Okay, talking about governments, and we are going to take it in different phases. Yeah. You spoke about TED Fund. We'll also talk about that because somebody else who's been with part of TED Fund before can give us more insight. Yes. To underscore just how dire the situation is that currently I think the University of Ibadan, which is supposed to be one of the highest ranking universities in Nigeria, is maybe number 18 in Africa.
The
right now in ranking. And in the world, I think around about number 1,258.
Yes.
In terms of ranking. Yes. This is dire because that university itself used to be one of the best, in Africa, one of the best in the world, and certainly in Africa. So, but the other interesting fact is that from the statistics I have here, it says that there are maybe about 43 universities or so that are federal, about 48 that are state, and 79 that are private. And as you have explained, of course, the scale of the problem is different from universities to one university to the other, but it exists.
Yes.
Is it because the core of the issue is the funding? And I'll come back to the funding because I think that Nigeria allocates less than 10% to education in the budget, which is lower, one of the lowest in Africa,
in the world.
And one of the lowest in the world. There are countries that allocate up to 30%. 11 to 30%, depending on which country and what their idea of what education is. So that's one. We'll come back to the issue of one, funding.
Yes.
Two, and then purpose-based education.
Okay.
All right. Let's take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll see that issue of funding and function. And at the end of the day, individual interest and collective interest, which will take precedence in building a nation. Right after the break.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I knew your dirty little secret.
This was another lifetime before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies, isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.
Thank you. It's Public Eye. Our conversation today is about universities and other tertiary institutions in Nigeria. You know, why we have issues of, one, the living standards, the challenges with actually the universities performing their functions as they should. And before then, we had zeroed in on funding and function. I have two other guests joining us now, and I'll introduce them from my extreme left. And that would be Mr. Gbemiga Arolashafe. Mr. Arolashafe has many years of experience in both public and private sectors. For the purpose of this conversation, I want to say that is a former director for public affairs for TET Fund. TET Fund is a tertiary education trust fund for Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
It's a privilege.
Right. Also with you, if I jump over Professor now, I'm coming to Mr. Adekunle Odeyinka. So I want to come to TET Fund, or rather I want to come to funding. The issue of funding has gone on, you know, in terms of conversation in Nigeria over and over again. People say, let's all start with this way so that at least a younger audience understand. Where does funding for universities come from in Nigeria? Where do they get money to run universities?
Thank you very much. For the records, funding comes from, one, the federal government. Two, we have some basket in the Federal Ministry of Education where partners contribute into. Three, special agencies like TET Fund come also. Four, the institutions themselves are expected to generate funds. Either if it's a state institution, then the state government, in addition to all these, should also support.
Yeah.
And if it's not a state institution, that is out. But every institution is expected to generate funding. And a critical part of funding, to me as an individual, that I see lacking is the one that's outside. They call it chairing of faculties, innovations, patents, and all those stuff. We know that some universities outside don't rely on money from government. They have a lot of innovations they've patented that is generating funds for them, but seems to be the opposite in Nigeria. Permit me to refer to a report that was done some years ago by the federal government through collaboration or directive, then I was still in TET Fund, by a committee called Committee on Needs Assessment of Nigeria Public Universities. Eventually, after that, we did one for polytechnics and the one for colleges of education. We've talked about funding as a problem, but funding is not actually the only problem, and it's not looking at it on scale. As an individual, I would say funding is not our major problem. If you have money and you don't know how to use the money, it's waste. You see somebody with 10 naira is mentally active. He multiplies his 10 naira. Somebody with 1,000,000 naira wastes the 1,000,000 naira. I am not saying that funding is not an issue, but from my own assessment, the institutions have not put in place other means of innovatively generating fund to help their operations. Just last week, a university in the South, a governor commissioned a committee to look into the activities of a university in the South, that one called the state. And after the report was presented, the governor directed the state prosecutor, all those people, that they should go and investigate those managers of the institution. Why? A school that should be admitting 100 students for nursing admitted about 1,000 students for nursing. They should be admitted about 50 for medicine, admitted about 800 for medicine. Play it along. These students will be paying fees. Nevertheless, the school will say there's no money. Are we getting it now?
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. Then, again, you collect this money, like the prof said earlier, the institutions are in, if the students are not saying it, it's in the public domain. The institutions are in terrible situations in terms of infrastructure, basic infrastructure, no water, no toilet, no road, no light, no hostel. Everything is just terrible. And it's so very bad and peculiar with Nigeria. How do I mean? You just talked about ranking of institutions. We went around some institutions in the world when I was still with TEDFON, and we looked at what are these institutions doing. And we tried to come back to Nigeria, and that's why the ranking started increasing. Nigerian universities just slept, totally slept. The things we do, we don't let anybody know. When people don't know what to do, nobody will be interested in investing in you. Then basic things as projects, the prof we agree. Until now, I can do a project in University 1, give it to you, you go and do it in University 2. Nobody knows that it has been done anywhere. But out there, you don't even cite somebody's work wrongly. You will be held accountable for it. So a lot of things have actually gone wrong. It's not only funding, and that's my own point. Thank you.
When we were chatting, Prof said we didn't focus on education, we didn't get it right. And I asked, what did we focus on? What have we gotten right? So, the Nigerian society, when we start analyzing it, we are getting and doing so many things wrongly. And unless we go back to the basics to start correcting some of these things, we'll continue to be having, do I say delusion or confusion about what is going on. In the 70s, or in the 60s rather, I read a report that Chief Awolowo commissioned the report and agreed the number of graduates that Western State would need by 1975. And then they set out to generate that level of graduates by that 1975. In other words, there is a plan. And the plan now generates some goals, and some actions are now being taken to meet those goals. There was time we used to have 5-year annual plan, 5-year development plan. I don't know how many year development plan we are having now. Right. So people are things are no longer coordinated. There are no longer plans that we can say, okay, after a year, this is where we are supposed to be, this is where we have reached, this is what next we need to do. So those are some of the issues that are creating these dysfunctions. But I became highly interested when Mr. Arola Safe, God bless you, when he was talking that fund is not a major issue. It differs a little from my own experience on hostel. My group actually participated in hostel in Ife. We got a land from the university and we built a university. We built an hostel for guests. When Prof was saying the people that were engaged to be cleaning the hostel were not working, I can relate to that, because the people that were engaged in the university to be cleaning the hostel were not working. Even when I was in the university, they do some level of cleaning then, but it is not thorough. But years after, I left the university in 1989, I mean for my first degree. So years after, the thing got worse. But in our home private hostel, we are actually changing bed sheets for the residents, and we are cleaning their hostels. Right. But they pay. They pay. If I must be very honest with you, Our hostel is about 300,000 naira per annum in Nife. My daughter is in University of Lagos now. We are paying about 265,000 naira for a 5. I mean, she pays 275. Other to pay the same 275, and there are 5 of them in a room. I was in the room yesterday around 5 p.m. to visit her. The room was clean. Yeah, so cost has some role to play in correcting this. In Ife, I don't think they are paying the main hostel. I don't think they are paying 1,000 naira yet per student. So the cost has some roles to play.
Where is the gap really?
Yes.
From this background I've laid now,
Yes.
where is the gap?
Like I said earlier, he's saying that funding is not the problem. I believe funding is the bedrock of the problem. If you have an idea, how do you translate it without support? I'm not saying it is ideal not to turn out patency or innovations. I mean, that should be. We are agitating for that. We are saying that we should have hubs around our universities. But it has to be a joint thing. We are not saying funds should be coming largely from government. Take, for instance, the TED fund that he's talking about. TED funds are meant for federal and state government alone, only. It doesn't come to private institutions. If somebody muzzled all his or her energy to create a university, private university, I mean, we should expect some other people to support such a university in terms of funding. The person cannot do it alone. But at the same time, these innovations that you are talking about gobs a lot of money. But in our own area, I think what we should do a lot, and we have been singing that songs, that we should establish partnerships. Even locally, you can partner with other universities within Nigeria.
Professor, let me ask a question. Is there a university right now teaching robotics?
In Nigeria?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Right? Then, which one?
Now,
robotics, you know?
So private universities have started.
They started.
Yes, they just started. Some are starting. Some
they are teaching robotics from primary school in Asia.
Yeah, I know.
You understand? So you have university graduates coming out of universities who are studying computer science who have never used a computer.
I know.
You know, these are some of the things. So when I ask the question of function,
yes,
because if we want to develop a vocation-based country where people are highly skilled, so that even if a person comes out of the University of Technology to be a carpenter, he's an extremely good carpenter.
Yes.
He's an extremely good mason. You know, this is what I mean by function. You know, because if people are coming out of university and it cannot translate in the world they are living in now, not the world that has passed, not in the industrial era, and if we decide that our own development is going to go back and do mainly manufacturing, what are we training people to be able to manufacture? So, a very interesting point you've come to now, because there's always the argument, which is it, the system or the people, you know, or the value system of the people. And then the argument is that, but to change the system, it's still going to be the people who will change the system, which means these people have to change.
Yes.
And one of the things that can change the people is education. Which is why we have zeroed back where we started in terms of education. So let me ask you, since we have decided that it is not just money, in fact, it is mostly not really just money that can change the people, which will change the system. How do we change education so that education becomes functional? Because the function we want to achieve is for our system to change. No, for our people to change so they can change the system. How do we change education?
Well, starting from the home. The parent wants the child to start school at 3. I think it is wrong. It is wrong. You want your school, your daughter, your son to leave the secondary school or primary school at 8 to go to secondary school. It is wrong. And so on and so forth. I think it was only if during my set that can take anybody that is below 16. You can't go to UI if you are below 16, not even 15. But today we have 13-year-old in the universities. So even the parent, we need to start from that home. Children must be of school age before they go to school. Let them play at their primary ages. My wife is a teacher, and none of my children enter university before 16. No, she will not agree. They will not even start their nursery until they are 5. She will not agree. So those are where to start from. Then when the students are also in school, my father did not follow me to buy jam. He did not follow me to exam hall. My mother did not. But nowadays, the father will purchase the jam, will also take the student there, and then will be looking for faces that he might know among the invigilators so that I can whisper to them, why? What are you doing? Those are where the things start from. So when you have already corrupted, when the son has already said that dad will do this for me, mom will do this for me, and then he too will now be looking for other ways of getting things rather than follow the instruction that was given to him. The instruction he gave us, just like he said, the father invited me and said, you still remember the son who you are? The instruction is read your book and you pass. And we read our books and we passed. No shortcuts, no jump, no nothing. I'm a farmer now. Since 2 years ago, I've acquired some land. I was farming. The first set of workers that I got, 8 of them, I sacked all of them. Not the same day. Now today, my staff is 9 and it's only 1 Nigerian. The remaining 8 are Cotonou. Because when the Cotonou wake up in the morning, the first thing we do is to go to farm and start doing whatever assignment you have asked for him. But Nigerians will not even reach farm until 10 a.m. And by 2 o'clock, they want to come back home. So those are where the issues start from.
Should we just outsource Nigeria to foreigners?
I think there are ways out.
Professor.
You have said it. If we have to look at the word education, it's derived from the Latin word educare and educatum. You have to build and train. And it leads me to this recent example. I was with Chief Afe Babalola SAN less than 82 hours ago. So he invited me because he spoke with my proprietor, the owner of Ojaja University, KBC Oni of Ife. He now said I should go and see him. So the first day when I got there, he said he should conduct me around the university. So when I got to him, he asked me, what did I see here? I saw everything, including the state-of-the-art hospital. I don't know if you have been there. I was shocked because I know CT scan, MIR, you have to fly somewhere. They have everything, everything. So he now said, what can I say? I said, Baba, he said, the first thing is, once you get to the gate, parents, students, staff, your gap, you have to take it off, drop it there, leveler. Nobody, I'm a daughter of a minister, I don't care. Because he said he knew how he was trained, how he grew up. He was a farmer, that he never thought he was going to go to school. I think that is very important. If we still want to run boarding and day students, there are problems. A lot of students outside, we get security reports of a lot of activities that are undermining, getting involved in all these sharp practices, Yahoo, wanting to live larger than they are, and quite a number of parents are like, I don't know how to describe them. He just said it, I was so happy. His father called him. And some parents will see their kids who are still undergraduate bringing vehicles to the house. You should have asked, where did you get it? And some will turn around to be looking for how to bribe staff with money to get certificates. Not even admission, sir. Certificates. How do you feel if you cannot measure up with your certificate? You had a first class or second class upper, and they now put you somewhere, and they look at you, what is coming out of you. You cannot even express yourself, structurally. So that's why I said it's all of us.
all of us, probably will set up a kind of restructuring strategy that will bring some representative of parents so that you don't just go. Some parents will call the vice chancellor and be raking. Yes. Yeah. How can you do that? Leave my daughter, leave my... The vice chancellor went through a system too. And the person will just keep quiet because if you say anything, it might lead to something else. You know, so we need to. And look, they are greater. I'm happy they are here. You can't live for life. We are interested in their, growth. They will take mantle of leadership, whether we like it or not. One day, yes. And we will be glad to see them while we are alive.
So I'm glad you came here because I'm going to take a break and I'm going to throw the challenge to them. Now, if you were to solve this problem, what would you do? That's what I want to know. We'll come back. They can also ask the question, what would you do? I know we are going to come from you to what's next because these are the leaders of tomorrow. Yeah. We have identified that education needs to play. We need to change things through reorientation. Yeah. Education is a way of reorientation. But somebody has to take a decision that no more, no more, no more, we're not doing it like this anymore. And that will have to be leadership. Yes. We're going to take a break and we'll come back with what ideas of tomorrow's leaders are for how to turn this around.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I knew a dirty little secret.
This was another lifetime before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies. Isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.
We've had a lot of conversations so far, and we've identified somewhat that in reforming tertiary education in Nigeria, it seems like we have to reform ourselves. And to reform ourselves, we need education. So where does it start? Which will go first, the chicken or the egg? Or should it just be the person who would identify which is chicken and which is egg? We've come to the point where we would invite our audience to join because most of them are students and young people and they are the leaders of tomorrow. So I have somebody who's got a microphone already, the lady in yellow. Go on.
Okay. I would want to ask, why is it that after collecting huge sum of money for hostel fee and medicals, and at the end of the day, going back to school, you don't have water for like 4 days, you don't have light, you are sick, you go to the medical center, there's nobody there to attend to you, you still go back outside to use your personal money to take care of your health. Thank you.
So I was going to quickly ask, why is it that as students, we don't get student loans at all? And second, I was going to ask, if these things are being done in universities, who are to be held responsible for frauds and everything like that? Someone needs to be held responsible for these things. Thank you.
Who should be held responsible for things like fraud? Because that goes back to what she asked about getting what they paid for. So if somebody is fraudulent within the university system and affecting administration and all of that, who should be held responsible so that they can then get what they paid for?
Well, every country has what they call law enforcement, starting from the police to the judiciary and to the prison management system. Whatever we want to do and do it right in Nigeria, these three must be reorganized. I mean, the modest success that we are seeing Lagos as, part of it is attributable to its reformed judiciary. Because the kind of judgment you get in Lagos, you don't get it outside Lagos. So if Nigeria can have a better police, a better judiciary, and a better prison system, that is the first. So anywhere there's a fraud, they take you to court, and then the court make a pronouncement, and then you go and serve the jail term in a rational prison.
Before I proceed with my comment, I'll first of all like to thank our guests for their deep insights and understanding for this topic. And for solution, I would say we need a total reform in our educational system and syllabus. First of all, this 6334 needs to go. We need to upgrade ourselves. Because I have junior ones coming up, and I try to follow up with what they do in school, and at a point I get lost because I don't even understand what they are doing in these schools. You know, these same institutions that are supposed to build and nurture us are these same institutions that are instilling fear in us. You know, they send us out on projects to do things, and when you come back, we start hearing things like, do you want to know more than us? So instead of them to encourage us to do more, they kind of like, you know, cage us so that our full potential would not come out. And while I was in secondary school, I used this Ugosilgo textbooks. I am surprised to find out that we are still using those same textbooks to date. And it's so surprising that how can we solve issues of 2023 with policies of 1539? It won't work. So we need to upgrade ourselves. Our educational system needs to upgrade. We need to be upgraded because if we should look at it now, most schools are going British. Why can't we improve our syllabus? Why is it the same thing our uncles, our grandfather, the same syllabus they used then, still the same thing we are using now? Right. Okay, I studied political science, and it was the handout my uncle's friend used while in school was what I used. And by the special grace of God, I had to sell those same handouts to somebody in school right now, and they're still using those same handouts.
Wow.
So, and if we keep going down that same line, we find out that we are still going over the same thing, all over, circles. No improvement, nothing. Let's forget accommodation, let's forget standard of living. One thing I'm sure about is that Nigerian students, we know how to survive, we know how to adapt. But the level of information, what we get in school, is what we really need to improve on.
Exactly. So even if you suffer that way, let it be that you come out better, spanking. I get you.
So I'm calling for a total reform of our syllabus and the whole educational system.
Right, I get you. Thank you.
When I heard the question first, what would you do to change the system of the education? The first thing that came to my mind was retiring or sacking all lecturers and starting afresh. But then I just thought of it that, okay, we can still go on with our lecturers and just include like some laws and policy. Let's reduce the rate of the way we collect money from students for admission. You just say pay 100,000 and I'll work it out for you. We need to reduce that, like, or we should just stop it. Like it can be stopped. Can put an end to it.
Prof, let me start with you. What do you make of that?
Well, very heart-breaking. And
that curriculum thing that you said about...
It's true, and the National University Commission has been working on that. There is this CC Max, called curriculum academic thing that they are actually working on, and it's affecting all the universities. At a point, there should be a review of curriculum.
Right.
And even as a lecturer, without being told, the year you graduated is quite different from the year you are teaching. There's a gap. Nobody should tell you. And funny enough, we have, opportunities now. We are exposed to social media. You can Google a university abroad and look at the courses they teach, compare with your own environment, And aside that, there is what they call town and gown. Work with your immediate environment, see what are the areas that you need to infuse in your teaching that will upgrade your teaching. I mean, how could you be teaching with 10 years ago's handout and you just photocopy and give? It doesn't match up.
That's why
all.
she suggested maybe we should fire all the lecturers.
In fact, when she said that, I agreed with her. But unfortunately, if somebody had done that before she came in, she won't have the opportunity of being taught by great minds. Honestly, there are some great minds that are there. I'm not saying she's not right. Unfortunately, there are some that are defacing us. How could you stoop so low to be collecting money for admission?
Good afternoon. My name is Collins. I would love to ask the EED, the concentration. What I mean by EED, the entrepreneurship education, focus is not there. When I was in school, lecturer once told me that not all of you that gain admission is going to come out successful. But let's try and focus on the EED so that in case someone graduates from school or maybe you are looking for a job, you can still have something to.
So a lecturer told you whilst you were students that not all of you will be successful.
Yes, that's not all of you that got admission. Yes, that's going to graduate. Yes, but the focus when I was in school, the focus on that entrepreneurship education is not, as in, it's not deep. It's not. You know what I mean? It's not deep. The time you are supposed to go and have lectures, sometimes it's not static. It's not every time.
All right. So there wasn't enough entrepreneurship education at all. What did you study?
SLT.
Pardon?
Science Lab Tech.
Science Lab Tech.
SLT.
That's quite specific. That's a nice, good, skill-based thing. So do you have a job now on that?
I work on my own. I work on my own.
So you're an entrepreneur now?
Yeah, something like that.
Ah, okay. That's why you're asking that question. Interesting.
I will start from the entrepreneurship. If we have, or if we implement what we think we have, pending when we now have a better plan, it is expected that the curve of life, some will be very successful, most will be averagely successful, a few will be aspiring to be successful. Each of them should know where they plug in, and that's why we have the technical colleges in the aside the secondary schools. We have the commercial secondary schools. They are different from the normal secondary schools. So we need to identify and bring back all this, because from the primary school, and that's why also the kind of lecturer or the kind of teachers we produce in the colleges of education matter. From the primary school, you identify which area best suits you. Some are not gifted academically in terms of reading, but they are gifted with the works of their hands. So such should not go to a conventional secondary school. They should go to a technical secondary school where those skills will be enhanced. And as they are graduating, it will be needless for such to say, I want to go to a university. You go to a polytechnic.
In fact, shouldn't we redefine what success is then?
We should, I think
because
that's
when a lecturer says you will not be successful, I wonder about that, because
and today he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so a very good carpenter is a successful person. A very good mason painter is a successful person. So we need to change maybe our thinking around about that too. I don't know if there's more to say. I'll give each one of you a parting word, and then we will have to go. What says you beyond asking for this state of emergency on education?
As a nation, we should agree that our value system has to be worked on. That affects every area. The parent supporting the child in corrupt practices, the child agreeing that the parent should support him or her in corrupt practices, the lecturer correcting it, the policeman on the road, everybody. We should just have our value reorientated.
My parting word is within our own individual self, we should try to practice whatever we want or whatever we are preaching.
I want to toll that line before I end up with our own culture. Whether Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba, we have culture, which stands us out clearly, and that culture is really assisting us. But because of foreign culture, we are losing it. We should retrace our steps.
I thank you all very much. Thank you for coming to the audience, and thank you for the guests. I really like that suggestion of it starts with me, because even on the university campuses, I see a lot of young people. I see departments where they are doing, where they are doing science and research, and I'm thinking actually apply it to the environment here. There are places where I've seen just planting, water lilies will change what is here. Why are we not doing so? And even in the rooms, for example, refuse to let your roommates live like a pig, not near you. Little things, and then let's come to the big things too. Well, that's my conversation today. I thank you for watching, and I'll ask you that join us next time when we take on another issue. It starts with you and I. Bye-bye now.